What factors drive the automotive industry's evolution towards software-defined vehicles, and what role do things like artificial intelligence play?
Those are the questions we asked during SDV Social 2025, presented by Intrepid Control Systems on the evening of May 15th. Held at the headquarters of Intrepid Control Systems in Troy, Michigan. SDV Social is a free annual event where attendees can network and learn about software-defined cars. In addition to live music and technical demonstrations, I had the privilege of moderating a panel discussion on the future of SDVs. Joining me on that panel were Eugen Beslic of ETAS, Partha Goswami of 3IS, and Colt Correa of Intrepid Control Systems. By way of introduction, Eugen Beslic brings over 25 years of experience across finance, consulting, and corporate development. Upon joining Bosch, he served in a strategic finance role, supporting business development initiatives focused on growth fields and new industries. With Bosch, Eugen was instrumental in establishing a new division in North America, focused on software-defined vehicle solutions, go-to-market strategies for new offerings, and the implementation of innovative business models. Eugen later transitioned to ETAS, where he supports strategy and corporate development within the automotive software domain. Partha Goswami has over 30 years of experience in the automotive industry, 28 of which were spent at General Motors. During his time at GM, Partha was involved in product development, R&D, finance, planning, and technology strategy. As part of SDV Social 2025, he represented 3IS, which researches and investigates automotive electronic systems and components through benchmarking and competitive analysis. In addition to being a GM alum, Partha provides consulting and advisory services as the principal at PG Mobility Analysis, which focuses on smart mobility applications. And Colt Correa is the Chief Operating Officer of Intrepid Control Systems and has 25 years of experience working on software and electronics hardware with numerous types of vehicle networks. He is the author of a leading book in his field, now in its second edition, titled Automotive Ethernet: The Definitive Guide, in addition to authoring numerous IEEE and SAE publications. Colt holds a Master's of Science in Electrical Engineering from the University of Michigan, where he wrote his thesis on interactive engine and transmission controls while employed as a controls engineer at Chrysler. The first voice you hear will be Eugene's, followed by Partha and Colt. Join me now for a replay of our panel discussion as part of SDV Social 2025.
Moving at the speed of mobility, this is AutoVision News Radio with Carl Anthony in Detroit, Michigan.
What are the main factors that are driving the industry's evolution towards software-defined vehicles?
I would say that's efficiency and speed, especially with the new architectures coming online. The development cycles are becoming much shorter, and the speed to market are becoming much greater, especially in the region right now. So one of the things that we're focusing in on is ensuring that the development cycle gets quote-unquote shift left, that you're developing in conjunction, also doing the testing at the same time, right? This speeds up the go-to-market, but also your accuracy before you get to road testing as well. So a lot of the benefits there are the quality side of it for the OEM, but in addition to that, in the future, it also helps the OEM monetize a lot of the software that's in the vehicle. And obviously those new business models are still to be vetted, but it definitely helps them out on a go-forward basis as well.
Partha, same question to you, my friend. What are the main factors that are driving the industry's evolution towards software-defined vehicles?
I think I'll take a little bit historical view of this particular question. And I think for me, the motivation or the journey towards SDV probably is rooted really in the turn of the century with the digital transformation of the consumer electronics, specifically smartphones, right? So in the smartphone, the consumers saw a device that still does the basic job it's supposed to do, which is making phone calls, of course. But then they also saw that it has become a platform to add lots of different applications that potentially can be updated over time. So the question became, or the question that we heard at the time, is that when can I have some of those digital functionalities inside a car? You know, this idea of smartphone on wheels. I'm not a fan of that, but we'll talk about that later. The second part of the motivation, I think, is more of a competitive, okay? So between 2000 2002 and let's say 2024, industry has seen rise of or the birth of several new companies, which we call NEV, new energy vehicle companies. Specifically, these are EV-only car companies, starting with Tesla, which was founded in 2003, I believe, and then all the way to Xiaomi in China, which was born in 2022 or 21. All these companies had one common factor. Their founders, in one way or another, came from technology sector. They basically saw that as an opportunity to create a clean sheet architecture of the vehicle, and then based on many of their, let's say, software background, they basically designed the car in a different, completely different mindset, right? And the traditional companies, whom let's call legacy companies, okay, they eventually started seeing something's happening in the car industry. Back in 2014-15, I used to get requests from my leadership to say that, hey, what is this over there update? Why are customers so excited? Tesla had a situation where Consumer Report found out that their braking distance was much longer than they would permit in a Model 3 at that time, or car of that segment. And instantly, they basically sent a update and which reduced it immediately to the right thing, right? And that, I think, got the attention of the traditional car companies. Said, oh my goodness, they understand that, right? The braking distance over time, because otherwise a typical car company would go through a campaign, dealership, all kinds of stuff. So I think those were, in my mind, two historical factors that basically led the traditional car companies to think about a very different way to build cars of the future.
Colt, same question, my friend. What are the main factors that are driving this SDV evolution?
I have a more cynical answer. SDV is, of course, software-defined vehicle. Car companies, they don't want to be a car company anymore. They want to be a software company because it increases the stock price. Like if you're a software company, then stock price is higher. And reality is that CEOs of car companies, that's the focus, the stock price. But a less cynical answer would be, practically speaking, is why do software companies have such a high sort of price to earnings, or why do they have higher profit margins? One reason is essentially just software licensing. You're not producing any hardware. It's essentially near zero cost, and the revenue that you get is all profit. So if a car company could produce additional functionality, even post-production, or improve the car, as you said, if there's a problem in the car and you deploy a fix for the problem remotely, that's an improvement. But improvements that you can generate, the ultimate holy grail, the ultimate goal would be to generate a revenue stream on a monthly or yearly basis based on subscription model from the vehicle. And so this is where SDV is really the platform that provides the more likelihood you're going to do that with an SDV platform than you are with any other type of platform. And that's really the driver in my simple estimation.
Thank you, Colt. Eugen, we're back to you. What are some of the biggest challenges right now in the SDV ecosystem? Is it a technology challenge? Is it engineering shortage and talent development? Or is it something else entirely? Is it a combination of everything? What are your thoughts?
I don't necessarily think it's a talent issue. I think it's more around the deployment of those resources within a vehicle architecture. The existing OEMs are very crucial in being more mechanical. And so when they design a car, they look at it more from the mechanical side instead of the software side. So it is a bit of a cultural issue that you're seeing right now of understanding the software side, guys on the one side, mechanical guys on the other side. It's a little bit of a battle that's going on inertly, but I think they'll eventually get through it. Some of the things that we're seeing internally from our side that's coming into the marketplace is obviously cybersecurity. Cybersecurity, you're obviously seeing a lot of hacks that are ongoing, and it's going to continue on for the foreseeable future. One of the things that we're developing and really pushing is to ensure that we can secure a lot of those vehicles and the hardware, but also on and off board the vehicle to make sure that from a consumer side, but also from an OEM side, they have the assurances that the vehicle they're stepping into is secure and safe.
I would say the biggest challenge here is that legacy car industry, and I'll separate them from these other 10 companies that I mentioned earlier, the younger NEV companies. So the legacy car companies have been around for 100 years, right? And I think they've been doing the the same way for a very long time, and it's very difficult to make that transition suddenly. Think of like you are a multi-story cruise ship in the middle of the ocean and you have to change course, okay? Very difficult compared to a speedboat that's much more nimble and can turn around, right? That said, we actually looked at the problem a little bit deeper as part of a project we did for SAE, and we actually came up with about 5 factors, and the factors are specifically, of course, technology is there. Technology is one factor, but also cultural, a very big one, organizational, then the human resources, HR, and then finally, all the business and the, let's say, process issues, right? Let me just kind of elaborate that a little bit. So when he said technology, it's very clear, the software-centric software architecture, developing this whole different ways of developing your electrical architecture, or in some cases even you have to design your own chipsets, okay, if you're, depending on how vertically integrated you want to be, right? So those are all definite technical challenges. But then the bigger challenge really is not technical, I think it's really cultural, okay? And why we say that? Because I think this whole idea of the so-called software-first mindset is extremely, I won't say it's new, but I think it's kind of foreign to the traditional car companies. The idea that I can think of any function, any car function as a software-driven service and basically design the rest of my architecture, the hardware around that software function, I think it's completely opposite of how the car companies have been doing it, right? So that's the cultural part of it. Organizational, okay, for those of you who are from car companies or even, the supply chain, that the traditional car companies, the product development function is basically arranged by silos, okay? We have powertrain, we have body, we have chassis, we have whatever, right? In the new format, really when you're looking at software-based, software first, you have to think about more cross-functional. You cannot say, hey, this is my steering function. The steering function now depends on lights, all kinds of other functions, right? So you, by design, you have to be a lot more cross-functional. That's where the organizational shift has to come, organized not around silos, but around this idea of cross-functionally working together in more nimble, smaller groups, right? So that's the organizational part. The fourth was HR. We need more software resources, which is not necessarily available right down the street. The last one is business and, let's say, process, right? The traditional car development process is a very linear one. The way we do it, and every company has your own thing. GM had VDP, vehicle development process. We developed 1.1 to 1.2.1, whatever, right, throughout the years. It's very linear. You start from a spec, you assemble a team, you work through the, you have very rigorous milestone. At the end of the milestone, so-called SORP, start of regular production, the car goes out, the team is dismantled and everybody moved, and you wash your hands off it. It goes to the dealer, there is warranty, for most part you're done. And then the team goes and starts a new program altogether. Cannot do that in a software-centric mode because you are never done. After the vehicle goes outdoor, you still have to own that because you have to have this challenge of continuously update it, right? At least that's the plan. So that continuous process is also something very new, process-wise. There are a horde of issues around business model. Industry hasn't figured out how to monetize this at all. We can talk about more later, but you get the idea.
Colt, what's your perspective? What do you see from your vantage point, challenges right now in the SDV space?
So in the past, as the automotive industry has become more and more electrified from totally mechanical vehicle till today where it's very high content, the process that has happened is just, okay, let's do electronic brakes. So we got electronic braking group at a company. Let's do, associated with that is electronic ECU, electronic wiring, all associated with brakes. And then separately, the propulsion system, separately, infotainment, separately. And so I agree, there's lots of different groups focused on a particular functionality, and the joke kind of in the industry is that if you look at an electrical architecture in the past, you can really define what the organization of the company looks like. So I think the problem is really organizational, because in software-defined vehicle, if you look under the hood, in order to really do software-defined vehicle with the ability to deploy new software remotely, and integrate everything all in one, what is happening is it's really another word for central computing. And central computing is you're taking all these separate domains, braking, power, propulsion, infotainment, you're smashing them together into the same ECU. And so organizationally, traditional car companies are just not accustomed to that type of integration at the beginning stages. My opinion is that's the biggest challenge moving forward.
Thank you, Colt. Eugene, as you know, we are an industry of acronyms, our latest acronym being AI. Where does AI fit in the SDV ecosystem?
I would say it's coming. We're already starting to see a lot of disruption right now with AI, obviously with the hyperscalers right now. One of the interesting things that I've seen, and I've started researching this a little bit, is a lot of the entry-level positions, the basic level coding positions are starting to be eliminated at the hyperscale level. So you have developers that are out there searching for jobs right now. That is essentially coming into the automotive space, right? We're starting to see the infancy of that right now, where a lot of the basic rudimentary coding functions are being taken over through AI. So basically you can argue as AI, as machine learning, regardless, it's basically simplification, but it's also enhancement of the coding process right now. With AI, basically it can help you generate a little more of that function on a lot of quicker basis, but also on an efficient basis as well, and also less headcount.
Partha, where do you see AI fitting into our conversation this evening on SDVs?
The short answer is everywhere, but I'll just first define my basic definition of AI, which is I see it as a automation technology that can automate both the routine as well as creative tasks based on machine learning, how much it's taught, based on human knowledge, based on all the data that goes into building it, right? So having said that, I would say AI as a tool is as much applicable to a conventional vehicle as in an SDV. However, SDV being more architected differently, there are reasons why it actually makes it much easier for AI to apply. For example, you can collect more data, always connected to the cloud by definition, and that makes certain things very easy. Things like application of digital twins, and the development, simulation testing, all of that goes with it, right? So there is a reason to say that, yeah, there are more application of AI in an SDV. Some of the application we have already seen, very common application, you could look at voice assistant, okay? LLM or large language based voice assistant, which are very different from those of prior years, where you can actually take it to a level where you can do lot more conversational exchange. There are huge application in autonomous technology. Basically, teach the system based on what's available, what they actually see in real life, and then car can actually behave much smarter, but also post-sales, okay? Things like preemptive diagnostics, preemptive maintenance, so that the vehicle can capture problems with the vehicle even before a conventional system can catch it, right? All those are some of the areas AI is already helping post-sales.
I think everywhere is a good answer, but some specific examples. AI has been already in the automotive industry for a long time. We're one of the leaders, of course, with the autonomous driving, advanced driver assistance systems, object detection, persons and objects on the road, lane detection. This has already been happening for a long period of time before AI even got more of a ubiquitous word. My personal experience is I've started using it on a daily basis for almost a year now. It has enabled me to provide more value to the company that I work for, which is Intrepid Control Systems. AI has the amazing ability to scour the world, scour the input information, provide essentially summary data of what it sees. So I think that it's amazing capabilities, especially in software. In the automotive industry, it has the potential to enhance the speed and accuracy of the engineering that we do. But we've got to remember, a lot of the data that's out there, including the data that we collect for vehicle development, is bad data, or it's not named properly, or it's in the wrong place. Really, this is kind of the dark side of AI, where one small wrong input can produce really bad output. I remember one time I was asking AI a simple question about an Ethernet protocol. This was just a couple of weeks ago. AI gave me an answer. Yes, this protocol has this field within this Ethernet frame. It's 2 bytes long, and it has this bit pattern. And it went on to describe the bit pattern, and the bit pattern was 17 bits long. So anybody that's an engineer doesn't know that 2 bytes is not 17 bits. So it was a very, like, it couldn't even check its own answer for logical consistency. I mean, it's a totally illogical answer. So there's a dark side to AI and a good side, but when used properly, it can really enhance the capability of engineers.
Thank you, Colt. Eugen, with everything we've been discussing this evening, what trends do you see on the horizon?
I would say about ADAS. I think the big one about ADAS is going to be an interesting one because right now, I think there's a lot of news about whether or not when autonomous driving will be in place. And right now we know level 2 plus has been released to the public. Anything level 3 to level 5 has not been released yet. And there's a couple of reasons behind that. One of them obviously is ensuring that the architecture is there for the vehicle. And kind of what we talked about a little bit earlier is ensuring those mechanics, the software is there and that works for the functionality within the vehicle. The other part of that is obviously the safety aspect of it, which is obviously crucial when it comes to releasing a vehicle out in the field, ensuring that there's safety in there, ensuring that the vehicle doesn't do a wrong turn or anything around that nature. And I think the bigger one is the use case application, which becomes even more crucial because with the use case application, there's two things that become very critical. That's partly the regulation side of it. That's also part of the monetization side of it. One of the reasons that there's been a slowdown in the release of those L3 to L5 is how are you going to make money, right? And some of the big areas where you can make money right now within autonomous driving is freight, hub to hub on a freight point. That's a known area that you can make money, and that's a known area that is in need right now.
Thank you, Eugen. Partha, what do you see? After everything we've discussed tonight, what trends do you see on the horizon? What do we need to be aware of?
First thing is, I started by saying that there's a difference between those, new energy vehicle groups and the traditional companies, right? And I think that traditional or the legacy companies, they have to come up to speed. So going forward, we'll see for the next 2, 3, 5, 8 years, we'll continue to see that struggle to come up to a level they really want to. The other thing, I'll go back to the comment I made, that notion about smartphone on wheels. And I said that's not a model I am a proponent of. As a matter of fact, I think it's the wrong metaphor. Let's say the car is ultimately a safety-first device. And regardless of everything that goes into it, regardless of the new experience we have to bring into the vehicle, it still has a primary responsibility of transporting people safely from A to B. So I think that going forward, a successful future really lies in combining the best of what traditional car building really means, where it has to be designed in a manner that it can never fail when it's in the field. And how do you combine the best of that safety-first requirement, need, with this software-first approach of the new architecture? How do you combine, let's say, the best of Silicon Valley with Detroit, Stuttgart, Shanghai, Tokyo, whatever, right? I think we'll continue to see more and more movements in that direction, okay? We'll see that Silicon Valley, leaders that have been coming into the car industry, they're beginning to understand the complexity, and probably that will change the dialogue a little bit, okay? And same thing, we'll see that the leaders of traditional car companies will also see what does it mean to kind of move away from this brick and mortar approach to the software first approach. So I hope we'll see that. I think to make this transition, we probably need a lot more, let's say, holistic technical leadership. And I hope to see that at some point.
Selfishly, I just want to give a plug as a teaser trailer. So at Intrepid, a big part of what we provide and the value that we add to the industry is instrumentation systems. It's all about collecting data. So as I mentioned before, AI has astonishing capabilities to scurry through lots of data. And so the challenge is not so much anymore collecting data. We can collect a lot of data, but then how do you use that data to make real good decisions? And so in our world right now, I'm focused on how can we leverage AI to scurry through old data, potentially would be in the past considered bad data, along with good data. So the challenge is not data anymore. It's more about how do we take all of the data combined that is partially bad data, good data, miscategorized data, and enable our customers to make good decisions based on the data that they have. And AI with the right parameters, the right constraints, The right filtering criteria can do an astonishing job of that, but it can't do it alone without a really good ecosystem and like I said, really good criteria around how to establish good from bad, how to connect this data to that data. Really, as a teaser trailer, that's kind of what I'm looking at for future products, especially when we talk about our wireless embedded data loggers from Intrepid Control Systems. We have lots of fleets of vehicles out there collecting lots of data. But the piece that's missing now is how do we efficiently and quickly take that data to hand the information that's needed to the engineers and the managers to make good decisions about their products. Specifically, also when we talk about root cause analysis. One of the things happens, you integrate an entire vehicle, which is a very complex number of systems coming all together at one time, and then you go out on the road and you have some significant issue that is maybe reproducible once a month. Maybe it's never reproducible. Maybe it happens one time. And you only got one shot at the data, and the data isn't always perfect that you're collecting at that time, and it may not even be the right data. So how can we leverage AI to deliver a faster and more accurate view towards the root cause of these types of problems that are very difficult to debug? If we can use AI to do that, I think we got a great future as an industry and as Intrepid Control Systems. So that's our teaser trailer for the future.
Yeah, right on.
Thank you, Colt. Once again, our panelists, Eugen Beslic of ETAS, Partha Goswami of 3IS, and Colt Correa of Intrepid Control Systems. See the links in the show notes for more information about software-defined vehicles. AutoVision News Radio is available on all major podcast platforms. From Intrepid Control Systems in Troy, Michigan, for SDV Social 2025. Alongside Eugen Beslic, Partha Goswami, and Colt Correa, I'm Carl Anthony, AutoVision News Radio.